Welcome, Melanated Married Millionaires in the making and friends, to another impactful episode. We're about to go through and highlight a melanated married couple or just go through some lessons that we got. Make sure y'all tap in with the conversation. Queen, where can they go to tap in?
TheeM4Show.com.
Yes, ma'am. And make sure y'all follow us on Instagram. Queen, where can they follow us on Instagram?
TheeM4Show.
Now, if y'all haven't liked and subscribed, it would make the Queen very, very happy. If you can go ahead. Very? What should they do?
You should go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
It's free and your first step to becoming a millionaire. Go ahead and click that button. And let's get into the show.
Let's do it.
So anyone out there, let us know. One, have you ever lived in grandma's house? Any stage of your life, whether it was when you were a kid, whether it was when you were right out of college, or when you're grown. Have you ever lived in grandma's house, auntie's house, uncle's house? And what did that moment in time allow you to do? Right? I think it gets very prideful. I think that's the word. Let's rock with it. Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, royalty to the M4 show, standing for Melanated Married Millionaires in the making. I'm your co-host, Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. And of course, y'all know I have the beautiful, the Taraka, the Mauritius, queen herself. Please introduce yourself.
What is going on, people? My name is Sinclair, a.k.a. the Health Nerd. And happy to be here today.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling good. Feeling good.
In case you don't know what Mauritius is, one, it's a word that we made up a definition for. It's marvelous and delicious put together, Mauritius. But it's also an amazing, beautiful island off the coast of East Africa, right?
Yes.
And it is a destination we want to visit someday. But getting into today's episode, don't sell grandma's house. We talk about don't do it. Don't you do it. We talk about all the time real estate being a form of building wealth within our community. And unfortunately, right, based on just timing of the world, we're moving into a huge generational shift and a wealth transfer. And I think there's going to be a choice that a lot of millennials, a lot of what's the people right below millennials, Gen X, Gen Z. No disrespect to your generation, Gen Z. I think one of them.
Wait, you mean like younger?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Gen Z. I think
Gen Z, right? There's going to be opportunity for them to get inherited stocks, get inherited real estate, get inherited life insurance, and it's important to, I think, don't sell grandma's house.
Yeah.
Right. But Queen, before we get into the actual topic for today, can you please hit the folks with the did you know?
Yes. So, did you know that less than 5%? Well, okay, let me back up. Say it. No, I gotta give this to y'all right. Your genes have less than 5% to do with your risk of developing a particular disease. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is, right, things being passed down. We're talking about grandma's house, things being passed down. Speaking of grandmas, right? I think there's a lot of notions out there that we inherit everything from our parents, right?
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a particular health struggle, I think the narrative that is often put out there is that you've got all of that, all of your health struggles you've got from your parents and from your family history. What we're learning now, and this is research coming from the University of Alberta, a lot of research now is showing that the lifestyle habits of each individual has way more to do with the anything that you have inherited from your parents, right? Any DNA, any genes, any things that you've inherited from your parents. Your lifestyle habits have way more to do with that. And what I think there's probably mixed emotions when you hear this, right? For me, it was a level of relief, right? Okay, like I have more control. But there's also maybe a little bit of fear there, right? Because now you have more responsibility.
Facts.
Right? With power comes responsibility.
Facts.
So I do think that it is empowering for us all to know that we have the power. A lot of the, companies out there, they want you to think that you need them, right? To be healthy. That there are only certain individuals that hold the information and the power to your health, and that is not true. We all have the power and the keys to our health. And I think that once you know that, you can take back, you can feel empowered, take back that responsibility and start to change, right? Start to improve your daily lifestyle and habits so that you can start to reap the benefits of that better health. And so I know that's a lot, but
Mm.
hopefully it's empowering to you to know that you have more power than you think. And so you're, a lot of, especially in our community, we hear like, oh, my family's just big boned and things like
Right.
that, which there is part of that,
That 5%.
geez, right? There's that 5% that may be an inherited, ability to pack on some weight, if you will. But 95% of it, right, might be the diet and lifestyle habits that you've inherited from your
Right.
parents, right? You're probably eating similarly to the food that you grew up eating because that's what's in your body, right?
Right.
That's what's in your culture, that's what's in your family culture. If you grew up with parents who were very active, you're more likely to be an active. If you grew up with parents who weren't, then that might not be important to you. But the long story short is you have the choice to decide what is important to you and to make those habits your own. So take that responsibility and just choose one thing, right? One thing you're going to do this week and adopt into your lifestyle to accomplish better health.
Oh, there it is. Well done, Queen. I see you. And the reason why this kind of ties in, like the Queen said, is if being wealthy, if building wealth is something that you want to do, but maybe you're a first generation millionaire, first generation billionaire, first generation entrepreneur, first generation real estate investor, you may be doing things that are different from your family's established culture. You may be doing things that are different from your family's established habits, but it's still up to you to control the 95% that you do control to maybe create a new legacy for your family. After all, this is the M4 show, Melanated Married Millionaires in the making, and the change that you can make can then be adopted and become a part of that 5% that your kids inherit. Right. So today we're gonna be talking about how grandma's house, shout out to Grandy, shout out to Nana, right?
Shout
Shout out
out.
to all the grandmas out there. Much love. But today we're talking about how grandma's house can really be used as a way to create wealth for the family and for other generations coming up. Queen, are you ready?
I am ready.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I
Your
just,
face says otherwise,
I
but
was,
I know how you truly feel inside.
I want to lean in and affirm you
Thank you.
and your vocals,
Thank you.
Sinclair. Yes. But before she sings again, let's get into the episode. Over 50% of Black Americans are unmarried, and only 2% of Black families in America have a net worth over $1 million.
We are on our journey to not only join that 2%, but grow that 2%.
Facts. I'm Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, with my beautiful co-host.
I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd.
And welcome to the M4 Show. Groove it out, groove it out, groove it out. Welcome back, beautiful people. So I want to kind of start this off. We have an outline. Are we gonna stick with the
Outline,
outline?
schmoutline.
It's there. But
Devon.
Sinclair,
Devon.
remember we had the beautiful lit mentorship program,
I do
right?
remember that.
It was a long time ago, a few weeks ago, really. And I had like the final session, like the second to last session. I was leaving the session, and to give y'all a little bit of context, this is where we go into high schools within usually the LA area, and we're teaching about financial literacy, wealth building, Black history, and we're teaching these high schoolers, and we have our UCLA college mentors there as well. So everything that we're teaching is financial literacy and wealth. I leave this session, right? I have my boxes. One of the teachers, they get into their car. It's a nice car. I remember if it was like a Jaguar or a Lexus. It's a pretty nice car. All the students like, oh, okay, we see you. Oh, it's a nice car. Okay. Like, hey, Mr. Truvel, what kind of car do you drive? I'm like, oh, so you already laughing. What's going on here?
I heard this.
What's going on here, Sinclair? But they're like, yeah, what kind of car do you drive? I'm like, oh, I drive a Prius. Laughs. All the students laugh at me, Jair. They're just like, you drive a Prius. You need to get a new car. And then even talking to one of my brothers, Brother Power, who's like, you know what, Devon, it's time for you to get a better car. it's time for you to get a car that really signifies who you are. So bringing that concept back, right? Could I have a Lexus right now? Could I have a BMW, a Mercedes, a Tesla? Yes, absolutely could have any of those cars right now. But what we talked about, I think, in the last episode was the concept of delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And is I could spend $700 a month having a really nice Mercedes, or I can spend $280 a month on this Prius, who has excellent gas mileage, and now I have an extra $400 a month to spend on marketing, to spend on making videos, to spend on growing this podcast, to whatever else that we want to do. And I think it's difficult, especially being someone who teaches financial literacy. It's difficult for me to sometimes make the decision to be financially wise
Mm-hmm.
versus looking like I have
Right.
wealth.
And I think it's interesting. I'm pretty sure you told me this a while ago that most millionaires drive Prius. Didn't you say that?
I don't know if I said that. If I
Oh.
said that, I might have made it up. I don't know if
I took it to heart.
most millionaires drive a Prius. I know Bill Gates had a Prius at one
Oh,
point.
okay.
I don't know if most millionaires, if y'all know what most millionaires drive, you go ahead and let me know. But I don't know about that.
Okay, my bad.
You know, you're good. I'll claim it. I'll claim it, but I don't know if that was true. But that's the kind of the conversation that we want to talk about today, and specifically a decision that we made in delaying gratification on a certain lifestyle with where we live,
Mm.
right? So I think outside looking in, and again, y'all, people who listen on this podcast, all 13 of y'all, rock with you. Appreciate you. Y'all get to really see and experience the full journey that we're going through in being M4s, right? So we made a conscious decision, I think. How far back do you want to go? Do you want to talk about right now, or do you want to talk about college?
I,
Talk to me, Queen.
I mean, we could talk about now and then draw the connection to. I mean, I don't know. I mean, both are applicable
Both are very applicable. Let me know which pick a path, like
now.
goosebumps. Now, okay. So as y'all know, last year, 2021, the whole theme was free the queen,
Mm-hmm.
right? We repped that free the queen. We were repping that hard all year. That was the goal. And we got to a point in, I think it was like September, October, where the queen was literally fed up,
Losing my mind, y'all.
losing her
Losing my
mind.
mind, losing myself, losing all of it.
Mm.
It was not a good time.
Not a good time. And I remember distinctly we were on the couch at our house, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did have the privilege of buying a home, and we'll talk about how we got to that privilege later on. But we were sitting in our house on the couch. I remember very distinctly, Queen. You looked at me and you were just like, I just hate it here.
Yes.
And I feel like for me as a husband, I was just like, oh, okay, this is different. Because I remember we were like, no, stay there for X amount of time, and then we'll slowly get you out of this job, and then
Yep.
we'll build up this, and then for like maybe a few weeks, you were like, okay, yeah, I can do that, yeah, yeah, and then I don't know, it was a critical moment of something happened at the job,
Yeah.
but you were just like, I hate it here, and you just started crying. And you just like, I just don't know, I hate it here, and yeah, and for me, like the word hate is very strong. And usually I would come back to you and be like, the word hate's strong, Sinclair. Are you sure that's
Mm-hmm.
the right word? But I can tell
Mm-hmm.
by that, like your body, the way it was shaking, the look in your eyes, that no, that's the right word here.
Right.
Nope, nope.
Yep.
It's
That's how
hate.
I feel.
Yeah. Um, anything you want to add there before I talk about the transition?
um, just that I feel like you. I mean, for all of those who have been to that point, like there comes a point where it's like, okay, I I'm continuing on this path is going to start to like degrade me,
Yeah.
right? My spiritual health, my mental health, like all of it was just, I felt like, I when I said like losing myself, like I felt that starting to happen, where it's like getting up every morning and going to some place that I don't enjoy, and not having time to do the things that I do enjoy, and just it was a lot. It was a lot of um just struggle.
Mm,
And then like getting up, doing the commute, and just COVID, there was just a lot happening. And it was like, I'm not happy.
mm,
I'm not happy at this moment in time.
yeah.
Um, and it wasn't even so much that it was any one thing that happened. It was just like a whole bunch of things leading up to this like boil over of like, I cannot do this anymore and be me,
Mm,
right? And I felt like for me, it was a pivotal moment to where I feel like I've seen people, like I had seen people at the job, I had seen people in life where it's like, oh, I could tell like you lost yourself at some point,
mm,
in just life, right?
yeah,
Um, and it was like I don't want that to happen to me. So I feel like that was a critical moment where I realized like, oh, this is where it starts to happen,
yeah,
right? So we can either figure something out to where we can change this pivotal moment and hopefully be able to change the situation, or like I'm going to start down that path that I see a lot of other people on, including including my health. And I think
yeah,
that that was an interesting journey that I was going at the same time, to where I was doing like my testing on my hormones and my stress and everything, and it was like I'm too young to be dealing with these problems, right? Like I
yeah,
was seeing like all of my hormone levels were tanked, my body was stressed, like to the point where it's going to start to lead to some health issues if we don't make a change. And it was
mm,
like I was already eating okay, exercising. So it's like, what about my life is causing all of this drainage? And for me, it was just the job and all of everything going on.
yeah.
But yeah,
So again, just to give context, she had, I'm not gonna count your pockets, queen, but she had a good paying job.
I did.
Went to school, chemical engineer. The position that she had was a position to where it was like you can easily keep this very good paying job,
Hmm.
have a nice car, right? Continue to live a very good lifestyle outside looking in. But and then in reality, you hate your job and
Hmm.
where you're at,
Hmm.
right? Or we can make the sacrifice, lose out on a lot of that income for now, right? Short term, lose out on a lot of that 9 to 5 income, reduce how we live, but be happy
Yeah.
and live a higher quality of life. Which one do y'all think we chose? Right, see in the past. So what we did was we decided to move out of the condo,
Hmm.
right? Still own it, we're renting it out. That has been a interesting process of just learning how to manage property and dealing with tenants and all that.
Yeah.
But we moved into grandma's house. Shout out to grandma, shout out to grandy, right? So being able to move into grandma's house, still paying rent because family doesn't mess around with money. But
Yours.
yeah, my family doesn't mess around with money. They don't. It's business. That's where I get it from. But being able to reduce how much money we pay in rent every single month we were able to free the queen,
Yeah.
right? Because we have my 9 to 5 coming in, we have Play Black Wall Street funds that are coming in, but a lot of the Play Black Wall Street funds, which I kind of talked about, a lot of that money goes towards building Play Black Wall Street out, right? We don't use that money for really our lifestyle too much. We take a few vacations, right? Some self-love retreats, but that's still building us up. None of that money goes towards our rent
Hmm.
until a little bit recently when the queen became our full-time employee. All right, bringing in the checks, bringing in the big money for us. But again, a lot of that funds is business funds, so we had to reduce the lifestyle that we were willing to live. We had to keep the Prius, keep the '07 Honda,
Hmm.
live in grandma's house for this time to be able to allow the queen to live a little bit more in her purpose and be free.
Yeah.
Mm,
I think it's to the point on it's the similar a metaphor to the car, right? It's like, yes, we had our own condo. It was nice. We had like Christmas parties and like we were able to have people over. And it was like, it was nice to be like, oh man, we live in our own space. We do what we want, right? But at
yeah,
the end of the day, that it was either that and continue to work this job that's sucking my soul,
yeah,
or decrease the lifestyle, maybe not to the benefit of how it looks from the outside, but it has increased my and our quality of life.
right,
And I think we've lived it, and now know that that is way more. It is way more beneficial than to just do what looks good. Because at
mm,
the end of the day, nobody else who thinks that who's going to be impressed by your nice condo or whatever pays your bills, or is
mm,
going to really aid in your happiness at all. So you have to do what really feeds your soul and is going to make you happy. So the
right,
fact that I get to wake up and work for us is feeding me in a way that I've never been fed before.
right.
And I think that I'm just like, yeah, we live in grandma's house. I really don't like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't look as glamorous as owning your own condo in LA. or living in your own condo in LA.
There
We
you go.
still own it, but it is 10 times more fulfilling
Mhm.
than what I was doing before.
All right, we're gonna get back to the episode in a second, but breathe. If you've ever had a brilliant idea, I'm pretty sure everybody just took a breath right there, right? Because we all have amazing ideas. But I got a question for you. What's stopping you from taking that idea and actually making it into a business, actually executing on your brilliance? My name is Devon Truvel, and in 2018, I was able to create, market, and sell my own product while still working a 9 to 5. And through the years, I've taken the lessons we've learned, the expensive webinars that I've gone to, and the dozens of business books that I've read, and I've discovered 7 simple steps to launch your business. If you're ready to take your business idea to the next level and make it real and start making profit from your passion, head to www.launchitcommunity.com and grab yourself the book. We've been able to make it very simple, affordable, and easier than ever to start that business while still working your 9 to 5. And we take entrepreneurs every single Friday and we talk to them. We teach them about how to use social media. We teach them about how to set up their Instagram account, how to use Shopify, how to use Printful and other tools that can help you take your business to the next level, but not take tons of time away from your 9 to 5 and your busy life that you already have. So if you're ready to take that idea to the next level, make sure you head to www.launchitcommunity.com, get yourself a book, and join our free accountability calls. Now, let's get back to the episode. So I was doing some research, right? I'm gonna get into just a little bit of numbers, all right, just a little bit of numbers, because I want to add more context to the whole decision of living in grandma's house or living with family. Period, right? You can replace grandma's house with auntie, with uncle, with your parents. Specifically for millennials or any generation, it may be a good strategic investment to do this for a period of time, especially with the economic situation that the world is in right now. Could be a very strategic opportunity. Move in with some folks, save some money, and then buy and invest later on. And I say that because, according to it was an article written on CNN, Black millennials are spending about 30% of their income on just rent, right? So you make $100,000 a year, $30,000 is going towards rent,
Mm.
which, as y'all know, is you don't get that back.
Right.
It's not tax deductible, so that's just money being gone,
And it's
right?
not going towards ownership in
And it's
anything
not going
unless you have a rent to own situation. But
exactly, right. So if you're spending 30% of your income every single month on just renting, you still need to pay utilities, you still have renters insurance, you still have groceries. So you're probably spending a close to 50, 60, maybe even 70% of your check on just your needs and necessities and what you need to survive, right? So you have a limited number of how much funds can go towards saving and actually investing. And that's what living in grandma's house when we were in right after college allowed me to do. Right, my first job, I started working the IE, started living at grandma's house, and I was paying a little bit of rent, but I was able to stack up. And then years later, we were able to buy our first condo because of the money that we were both able to save living in grandma's house right after graduation.
that was an absolute game changer for me. My life would look probably a lot different right now if I was not able to live at Nana's house. Because I did right out of college get a job in the Bay Area. So I worked in Oakland. And if you know anything about the Bay Area, it is one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. And so I was able to stay at Nana's house and stack up. Whereas with the job that I was able to get, it was cool. It was a cool paying job, right? I definitely was blessed to have it,
Mm,
but it was not like it was not
balling.
it was not a ball, and it was not a tech type salary job to where I would have been struggling if I had to pay rent in the Bay Area and also survive.
Yeah,
It would have been very hard. So I was able to stack up a large amount of money while living in the Bay Area, which is rare.
yeah,
So yeah, that was definitely a game changer for me as well.
right. And I think to the credit of the Black millennial tribe out there, right, shout out to us. I think a lot of folks are having the same mindset we have
Mhm.
because Black home ownership in general in 2019 was at 43.4%. while white home ownership was at 71%, right? So again, big discrepancy there. But for some reason, this is interesting. During the pandemic,
Mhm.
2020, we saw a spike in Black millennial home ownership specifically,
Mm.
which I attribute to folks like Earn Your Leisure, folks like Social Proof Podcast, folks like the M4 podcast, which we weren't M4 back then. But I think there's been a wave of financial literacy. There's been a wave of ownership, and there's just so much content out there now to where it's like you can't say you didn't know.
Right.
Now you cannot say you didn't know about
Right.
home ownership at this point because there's so much information, and Black millennials are taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
To where in 2020, Black home ownership spiked up to 46.4%.
Nice.
3% increase 1 year, largely because of Black millennials doing their thing. So
Let's go.
again, shout out to y'all. This is not a bash on anybody. This is just kind of a reaffirmation,
Affirmation.
reaffirming.
Sure.
We make up words here. We ain't worried about Miriam, all right? Um, but this is this reaffirming the importance of it. One more kind of a little bit of a pivot, but still within why it's important not to sell grandma's house, right? One path why you shouldn't sell grandma's house is because it's a way, kind of a safe haven for you or for other generations to live in.
Mhm.
Pay a little bit of rent, right? No free stuff. Pay a little bit of rent, but be able to essentially stack up
Mhm.
and then eventually either invest money into their own business, which is something we've been able to do, or invest money into buying their own home
Right.
after living grandma's house or parents' home. Another reason why you don't want to sell grandma's house is because one of our favorite E words, Sinclair. What's one of our favorite E words? We checked this on our home. We checked it
Ah,
yesterday.
equity.
Say it one more time for the people in the back.
Equity.
Okay, I said say it, not sing it now. All right. But equity, right? So I did a quick search, and you can do this for your grandma's house, your auntie's house, people's home who have had it for a while. But there's this lovely, beautiful home in Inglewood, California. Right? It was purchased in 1978 for
Mm,
$35,000.
mm, mm.
I want y'all to really like sit in that for a second. Inglewood, California anywhere, but
Right.
in LA, Inglewood, California, you can buy a house, Jair, for $35,000.
Write my check now.
That's crazy, right? Write that check, buy it. So it's interesting. Like that was the opportunity that was provided to some of our people, right?
Mhm.
Even back then, 1978, there was a lot of redlining, a lot of things happening to where Black folks and people of color weren't able to be into certain neighborhoods, right? But let's say your grandma, your aunt, your uncle had the foresight,
Mhm.
had the providence to buy a home despite all the barriers in 1978 in Inglewood for $35,000. Guess how much today that home is not worth?
1.2.
Ooh, it's a great guess.
Thank you.
It is on sale today for $648,000.
Mm.
So if your grandma, your uncle had bought that house in 1978, 35,000, let's assume it was paid off, even if it wasn't paid off. Today, whoever now owns that home would have over $600,000 of equity.
Crazy.
And something that you can do with that equity, if you don't know, is called a HELOC,
Mhm.
a home equity line of credit. So don't sell that house, right? Even if no one's living there right now, don't sell the house. You rent it out, Airbnb it, do your thing. But essentially, you can take a HELOC out on that home, and now you have access to $600,000 to buy a different home or
Right.
to invest in a business, to buy land, to invest in whatever you want. You do have to pay back that HELOC. It's like a loan, right? But you have access to that capital, that $600,000 to make some moves with.
I think the key thing is everything that he mentioned is our investments.
Investments,
Further
yes.
things to further grow the money. You don't
Correct.
take that and buy a car.
No.
You take that and buy something that's going to grow.
Thank you, Queen, for adding that. Bow bow.
You're welcome.
All right. So those are just two reasons why. And Queen, feel free if you there's more. You don't want to sell grandma's house, right?
I think another reason to not sell it, it kind of ties back to the first reason we gave is to provide some place to live,
Mm,
right? If just something happens, a lot of turmoil, rent prices going up or whatever, you now know you always have a safe haven, to return to. I think talking to your mom the other day, she said she lived in 5 of the 6 units
Mm.
that her mom had.
Yep.
Like, so just think of like throughout her life, she was able to live in different units of a building that her mom owns.
Mm.
That's crazy,
Yep.
and that's in LA, right? And that's a very nice situation to live in, or to be in. So I think that in addition to like financial reasons, having a physical place that you know your family, I think it's cool to have like a family building, a family house or
Yeah.
whatever that you always know like,
We're good.
right, we're good, right?
We're
if
good.
if, if anything else happens in the world, we have this land that we can always go back to. So I think it's also a nice just safety net to have
Hmm.
for the family.
Agreed. Agreed. So anyone out there, let us know. One, have you ever lived in grandma's house? Any stage of your life, whether it was when you were a kid, whether it was when you were right out of college, or when you're grown. Have you ever lived in grandma's house, auntie's house, uncle house, and what did that moment in time allow you to do? Right. I think it gets very prideful. I think that's the word. We were talking to somebody, and we were telling them that we wanted a Truvel Forever gym,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they were saying something or an office space, and they're like, "Oh yeah, office space is all about pride. Like you just want to have a big old space and put your name on it and call it yours, but is it really a good financial move at the time?" And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think I just want the space because of pride. So it's a symbol of our success and our hard work. Like, boom, we have a building, we have a space, but mm, where we were at that point in time, we were nowhere near where we needed
Right.
an office space.
I was aligned with that too. I feel
Mm,
like I reiterated something I think later to you too, is like we've been talking about having a physical space. It's in our 5 year plan. It's
mm,
it's all of these things, and it sounds cool, but I think at the you do have to start to ask yourself like, are we at a place where if we have a physical space, it is like, think of, we are adding overhead now to our business, right?
mm,
Are we at a place where that makes financial sense,
right,
or is it we just want to be able to say we have an office and go there and whatever?
right,
But I feel like, to me, if you can do your same job and it does not hinder you to do the same job working from home, you're probably not at a place where you need a building,
yeah,
right? I think where we are is my mindset is grow the demand so much to where it's like we need
need,
a physical space to keep doing what we're doing. We've got so many people, we've
mm,
got so many lit scholars, we've got so many workshops, we've got so many things we've got so many M4 events. We need a physical space to hold all of these, because it no longer makes financial sense for us to be renting spaces to
there we
do
go.
this.
Yep,
I feel like once you get to that point, it makes financial sense to get a physical place, and you always know that you have enough support to make sure that that mortgage on the commercial unit is covered.
right,
Because I feel like where a lot of people, and I think even in this area, right, the Inland Empire, one thing, a common theme for whatever reason, it's been here since I have been a kid, is we see like our favorite restaurants, we see just a lot of buildings closed down. And I never know why, but I think one thing to keep in mind is like, are you investing into a brick and mortar too soon,
mm,
right? Do you have that support of your business to really make sure that that mortgage is going to be covered?
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think it's something to keep in mind before we make that next step.
100%, Queen. And you know my belief and my excitement in having a space.
I know.
So, you give me those benchmarks and things that we need to accomplish, whether it's audience size, whether it's revenue, like go ahead and outline those out for me so I can get to work because I want a space.
Yes, sir.
I was talking to Joel. Shout out to Joel from Palm Photography, and he's gonna come on the show. It's gonna be a good one.
That's a
That's
that's an M4 couple right
that's an
there.
F4 show for sure. But he was like, "Oh, should we come in and do the episode in the studio, or should we do it on Zoom?" I was like,
The fact that it's a question.
first off, I appreciate you asking the question, brother. Thank you. Yes, I was like, no studio yet, so we go ahead and do StreamYard, player.
Right.
But he was like, "Yeah, no, studio's coming soon. I can feel it." And I was like, "Yep, it definitely is." So again, for me, I think the quality of work that we're putting out and the quality of work that I know we're going to grow into is studio worthy.
Hmm.
And I just see there's so much more stuff that I know Jair will be able to do if we have a studio, so much more stuff that we can do in a studio. The quality will elevate. So I do want us to grow towards that studio, but taking it back to the concept of this episode in delayed gratification, and not worried about the facade or the perception of your show, and really working in the reality of what your show is or what your situation is right now, and saving and preparing for that long-term vision
Right.
is where we're at. And this is going to be probably a different episode, but before we can get a studio, we need to come up with a solid, successful business model that monetizes the podcast,
Right.
right? That brings in partnerships, that brings in sponsorships, that allows us to have guests fly in and all that stuff. We need to make sure that that's tried and true and works before we then flip it and put that investment, put that money into a physical space.
Amen.
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 Amen. Oh, it's a good one. Question for you is let's go into our Ask Declare segment.
Okay.
Okay, because we've been doing some good talking, good back and forth, and we had a conversation with my parents and grandma. This episode is sponsored by Grandy. And we were talking about the fact that in Grandy's house and in my dad's house, it's a cultural thing. I feel like I don't know if you let me know if your parents had this same philosophy, Sinclair, but the fact that once you're 18, you out the house,
Mm.
right? Either you're in college, out the house, you have a job, but either way, you're not living here.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, you're not living here for free,
Free.
right? Is the mindset that I know my grandma had with her kids. It's the mindset that I know my dad had with me and the other kids. Like, hey, 18, you out, player. I'm sorry. Figure it out. Figure it out.
Right.
Um, do you believe that that is a well, let me rewind. I'm not going to go through that concept. My question for us slash you is, what is going to be our policy, or what would you like to be our policy for our kids when it comes to living in the house slash you have to leave out the house? What's going to be the rule or the culture that we set up for our kids in that manner?
Um. So I, I'm somewhere in the middle. So I think going back to my family did have a different culture.
What was your family's culture?
I was encouraged to go to UC Riverside and stay at home so that
Mm,
I could stack up.
it's
I
a good mindset. No, that's a good mindset. I'm
It
glad you
was
didn't do it.
right
I'm glad you didn't do
because
it.
we wouldn't made
Exactly.
well maybe we always believe we would have met somehow,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
um yeah, that was the mindset, and I wasn't told I was gonna have to pay rent. That would have been a surprise. Um, but yeah, that was the mindset there, so that I could save money.
Mhm,
Um, so it was a little bit of a different culture. Um, Now, I am not against the idea of having the child have to pay rent.
mhm,
I don't know that. I think it does depend on the situation though. So I think if like you're actively going to college or something like that, I don't know that that would be a situation where I would be charging rent. If you want to stay at the house while you're going to a local college or going to online school or whatever, I don't know that I would make that a time where you have to pay rent, because as you experienced, right, you had to
rough,
work 3 jobs, and
rough.
your situation might have been a little bit different had you not had to work that much
100%.
to pay for rent and everything you had to pay for,
Yeah.
tuition.
It's interesting because I think my grades would have been better
Mhm.
for sure. I think my grit would have been a different grit though,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think everything does happen for a reason. I think
Absolutely.
if I was able to get college fully funded, or if my parents helped with college, I definitely would have had an easier time, would have gotten better grades. I probably would have gotten into grad school right
Mm,
after college. So I think my life would have been on a completely different path. Not to say don't pay for your kids college
right.
that way that they can get grit and they can become an entrepreneur and create a board game. I think that just all kind of happened, but that all did happen because of the pathway that I was forced to go on.
Right. Right. Um, so yeah, it does think that it depends. If you are doing something to invest in yourself at this current moment, I
Mm-hmm,
don't know that I want to add additional stress to you and make you pay rent
mm-hmm,
if we're able to do that.
okay.
But if they've graduated from high school and they are trying to start a business, or even that, I feel like it depends. But I feel like if it's like, okay, I'm deciding not to go to college, I'm gonna go out into the workforce or whatever, you
Mm-hmm,
paying rent then, right?
100%.
Then that's fine, but you're gonna pay some rent. You're gonna have some stake in your ability to live here.
Yeah.
So I just want there to be some sense of responsibility as an adult. I
Mm,
do think that that is important. I do want to instill that in our children,
mhm,
but I do think that it will look different depending on their situation.
yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of at, is somewhere in the middle. I do like the idea of our house always being a safe haven for our children if they are in a bind and they need somewhere to live. I do not want my child out there suffering, doing things that they don't want to do because they need to make money.
Mhm.
If we are in a situation to be able to help them out.
I
But
mean, we'll always have a living room couch at a minimum,
at
so
a
we'll
minimum,
be in a position
right,
to.
right. Um, but I do want to make sure, like, we plan to be in a situation to where our kids don't have to struggle.
Right.
But I do want to make sure that we somehow instill that grit, if you will, in them.
Mhm.
So we've talked about, like, even growing up, right, them having to work for allowances and having to pay
Yep.
for stuff that they want to do. Like, this is our money, right? This is not your
Right.
money. This is
Right.
our
You
money.
wasn't here shooting in the gym.
You wasn't
You
here.
wasn't
You
here.
wasn't here. You was in our brains. You
Yeah.
was in our minds, but you was
Mhm.
not here.
Mm-mm.
Um, right. So I do want them to still work for their own money, so that they have that sense of what a dollar is worth, what money is worth. But I at the same time want them to always know that they have the safe haven at home.
Yeah.
So I think there's a somewhere in the middle of, like, I don't want them to be spoiled and not know the value of money, but I also don't want them to have to struggle so much to the point where they are stressed out financially, if you will.
I agree. And I wanna say this, but I don't want to plagiarize because I did get. And Jair, you let me know if we have any issues. But her name on Instagram is at Crystal CPA. She had this post that I reposted on how you can hire your kids
Oh
under
yeah.
your business. So, and I told the queen, well, I mean, you weren't in the room, but when I was saying it, I was talking to you. There are no allowances for
Yes.
our kids. All right. There will no be you take out the trash, which is cool. You take out the trash, you clean the kitchen, here's $5, here's $20. No, no, no. There are no allowances. There's going to be wages
Mm,
and paychecks that they get from TH4, M4, Play Black Wall Street for the work that they do, up to $12,000 because that's the legal federal limit. And when they get that $12,000, some of that money is going to be saved for their future. It's going to be invested. It's going to be into maybe it's an educational account, maybe it's a brokerage account, but it's going to be invested at least 30% of their income. And then the other percentage, hey, have fun.
mm-hmm.
Whatever you want to do with this money, you earned it. Have fun with that money, right? But at the end of the day, that full $12,000 that we paid them is going to be tax deductible for us in our business.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas allowance is not tax deductible.
Right.
All right. So for all my M4 people out there, Melanated Married Millionaires in the making, if you have a business, which y'all know my stance, every family should have a business, every family should have an LLC, which allows you to then pay your children $12,000 for doing work, legal work. They should be representing the business. Should all be, you don't be doing no shady stuff now. All right, we said it. Don't be shady. But that allows you to pay them up to $12,000, and then you can deduct that from your own taxes. So you get the best of both worlds. So with that being said, if my child has been working for our company for
Mm-hmm.
10 years and they've saved at least 30% of their $12,000, so that's what
4,000 each
that's
year.
$3,600. $3,600 per year for 10 years. So they should have at least $36,000 in the bank by the time they leave.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. So whether they have a job, don't have a job, if they're in college, gray line, okay, I can see that if they're in college, you can not pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're working and you're not in school, you're paying rent.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no excuse 'cause I know you got money because I've been paying you money for the past
Right.
18 years. Well, your money go. Well, your money go, Kendrick. What you talking about? You broke. All right. I know where your money's at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're paying rent. And I think by setting our kids up for that early, they'll be in a position to where hopefully they don't have to live at home.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do have to live at home, they can still be comfortable with the $500, $1,000, whatever it is that we're charging them for rent.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, what I would want to do, and I don't want them to know this, so I don't want them to listen to this
I was gonna
podcast.
say this is out to the universe, so
18 years from now, then they not listening to this, Sinclair. What? Our first of all, I think our kids are gonna avoid all types of content that that we're in.
Like, we
Period.
live with y'all. We don't
Yeah,
need to watch
yeah.
y'all
I
on
hear
my
th-
free time,
right.
you
I
know.
hear this all the time. But
LLCs, LLCs.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I
get
get
it.
it. Ugh. Oh my gosh. But I think where was I going, Sinclair? Look, you got me over
Sorry.
here. Oh, so I don't want our kids to know this. But what I would want to do is all the money that they're paying in rent, we really just save and help them buy their first home. So let's say they stay at our house for a year, 2 years, whatever it is, and then they're like, okay, I'm moving out now. I've saved up enough money to buy my house. I'm gonna buy a house. Cool. You saved up X amount of dollars. Here's another 5,000. Here's another 10,000. This is what you've been paying in rent for the past year, past
Mm,
2 years, and now this can go towards furniture. This can go towards lighting,
mhm.
technology, whatever.
I like that. And I like I think ET did that where
Mhm.
he did like a match situation with his kids of
Mm.
like whatever you save up, I'm gonna match that for your first property.
I'm not committing to that.
Okay. But I just like the
Uh-huh.
idea that like you've saved up this money and now I'm gonna help you so that you can get, get the property you want.
Yeah, I like it. So for you all listening, go ahead and answer this in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or leave it in the review if you are listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify. Is what is your mindset? What is your cultural practice around kids once they're grown
Hmm.
being able to live in the house?
And I think that this where I think this came from is in that same conversation where we were talking about this. I shared my stance that I think that there are a lot of other cultures out there where the norm is afterwards you're still staying in the house,
Yeah,
right? But also that the idea that you can always come back, you can always come back. There's never rent or whatever
yeah,
to pay. And I think that for some communities that has put them financially ahead, right? When you look at like the amount of wealth that is built within communities, and unfortunately we're typically at the bottom of the list.
yeah,
And I think that there is a cultural aspect to that, right? There's a long complicated history that we have, right? But I think that there is a cultural aspect to the you got to be out of the house when you're 18 that kind of forces everybody to start over,
yeah,
each generation to start over, where it's like, even if I've acquired this amount of wealth, this is my wealth, you have to go build your own.
yeah,
And you build that grit, if you will,
yeah.
which I think that works out for a lot of folks. It doesn't work out
Mm, I don't know if it works out for a lot of folks. It worked out for
for
me.
some folks. It works out for some folks,
Yeah,
right? People that have that very strong, like, personal will to go out there and I'm going to make the best out of any situation.
you know,
But for a lot of folks, it doesn't work out.
right,
And then we just find ourselves again starting over each generation and not really able to progress ourselves.
right,
So I think that that's where I'm kind of like, okay, let's start to rethink: is that really the best mindset to have, or is that just the mindset that has been passed down generation after generation?
right.
So I think it's just something just to start thinking about,
It
right? And
is.
and don't be, I feel like, be courageous enough to set your own culture in your house for your own family,
Mm,
and not feel the pressure, societal pressure or whatever, to need to do anything based on maybe past generations, or based on just what the norm is outside. Like, whatever you think is best for your family and to progress your family ahead financially, I think is going to be the best thing.
mm,
Just to decide what's best, and not just doing it out of this is what I was taught.
yeah. Yep. I like it. I like it. So we appreciate y'all for tapping in. Make sure you like and subscribe. Show us a little bit of love and help get these positive frequencies to more people around the world. Queen, anything else you want to sprinkle on just this concept of delayed gratification and the importance of holding on to family assets,
Mhm.
right? Your grandma's house is a family asset. Your parents' house is a family asset. So holding on to those assets and passing it down generation to generation and not getting rid of it, and just the benefits that can have. Anything else you want to sprinkle on that before we get into updates for the week?
I think just the idea that, like, when we're talking about delayed gratification, when you're, especially in the concepts of real estate, which is what we're kind of focusing this conversation on. Real estate has its ups and downs. So I think if you're going to decide to hold on to an asset, there are going to be times where it may be very tempting, right?
Yep.
You see that equity going up, and it's like, oh, I could get how much if I sold this right now, right? You could get how much in liquid cash that I can do whatever I want. But
Who can get how much?
I,
Mm,
oh, I see what you did there.
mm,
Right? I can get this amount of liquid cash to do whatever I want right
mm.
now. Or but then what am I really going to have to pass down to my kids, right?
Right.
Even if it's liquid cash that you're passing down, that decreases in value, right?
Facts.
So even that is not really passing down wealth.
Mm,
um so I think passing down something that appreciates, like a house or like a piece of property,
mm-hmm.
typically, even if it temporarily decreases in value, is going to come up, right? That's kind of the history and pattern of real estate that we see,
Right.
right? I think a happy medium is what we've been talking about here, is a HELOC, right?
Yeah.
Is to take that, whatever you're, hopefully what you're trying to do is something that's going to grow the money anyways, but you have that equity built up that you can tap into to go and do what you want with, but hold on to it, right? The idea that you're still holding on to it so that you can pass it down to future generations, so that we can again start to change the, or start to not start to continue
Boom.
to set ourselves up financially for future generations.
Yeah.
I think that that is really what going to turn the tide, and kind of, we always talk about like the path to any type of like improvement. You have it's like a, what type of curve is this? Is exponential?
Exponential
Thank you.
curve.
It's, I promise you I studied engineering. It's an exponential
Yes.
it's an exponential curve, to where like this, the growth at the beginning may be a little slow, but at some point you hit a steep kind of incline. So I think that that is going to be a game changer for our community, and start to kind of catapult the growth of the community, of is us continuing to put emphasis on passing down appreciating assets to
Yes.
future generations.
Yes. And if I may, you brought up a great point about using the HELOC. I want to make it very functional and applicable for folks. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So we talked about that house in Inglewood, right? Bought it in 1978 for $35,000. Today it is worth $648,000. So you have a choice. You could sell the home and you would get the $600,000 cash, and you do what you do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, like the Queen said, take out a HELOC on the $600,000 home equity line of credit. You go to a bank, you say, "Hey, bank, I have this house that's worth 600,000. I bought it for $35,000. How much equity are you willing to give me? Or how much leverage are you willing to give me?" They'll do their analysis. They'll send a assessment person out there. They'll send a appraisal person out there, and they'll be like, "You know what? Based on this value of the home, we can give you a $500,000 line of credit." Right? And this line of credit is as good as cash.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can swipe, write a check, do whatever you want. Once you spend money in this line of credit, you have to pay it back as if it's a loan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you will have a monthly payment on whatever you spend here. But let's say you take this $500,000 and you go buy an apartment building. Right? You only need 20% down for a commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have $500,000, just trying to think what's that 20% of?
You know.
$500,000 times five, 2.5 million.
Sure.
All right. So you can buy an apartment building that is $2.5 million.
Mm.
That
Even
part
in
in
California,
California, that's still getting a little something,
yeah,
something,
right, right.
right? That's going to be probably, let's say it's an 8 unit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be realistic. You now have an 8 unit property, right? You took out a $500,000 loan to get this. So 800, you have an 8 unit property. Rent is probably going to be $3,000 per unit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're cash flowing $24,000 per month is how much you're making.
I promise you, whatever you're trying to do with that money, that's gonna be a way better, give you way more money to do what you want. Even if at that
Way
point,
better.
right, as you've got the appreciating value, you've kept the house. Now go buy a car,
Yeah.
you're on your vacations, right? You have $24,000
A
coming in each
month.
month. You're gonna be okay.
You'll be okay, right? So not only do you have $24,000 in cash every single month, you have, like the Queen said, this 8 unit in California, which is still going to appreciate. So eventually you can take out a HELOC on this property
Right.
eventually.
And do the same
Yeah, and
thing.
do the same thing. And you still have grandma's house at the end of the day, right? So we're not trying to stop you from living your best life. We are trying to give folks want to play that we want to make. Like, we're not telling y'all anything that we aren't actively doing or plan to do, plan not to do. Y'all get what I'm trying to say, all right? But yeah, run the play, right? If you have the opportunity to inherit grandma's house, you have the opportunity to inherit a sizable real estate portfolio. Um, if selling it is the best option for you at your moment, then okay. But I would consider ask the question on, can I do a HELOC instead of selling it
Mhm.
and make a better financial decision for not just me, but 6 generations down the line?
Right. Yep.
Gucci?
Gucci.
Gucci.
Gucci,
Okay.
Versace.
Rare. How about that? My bad. Rare.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kill. So, Queen, can you give folks updates? What's popping in your side of town? Just so you know, I am going to be talking about the event that we went to. You're more than welcome to sprinkle in some things on the event as well if you want to share the wealth. But updates for you, Queen. Hit.
My update is we still have the free weight loss accountability group popping. So if you are trying to, trying to shed a few pounds, trying to be able to go into the back of the closet, pull out that freakum dress and wear it with confidence,
Mm-hmm.
but you just need help staying consistent. That's one of the hardest parts about a weight loss journey is staying consistent. We all can do whatever we want for a week, right? But keeping it consistent for the months, years it may take to lose that weight and keep it off is the hard part. So find yourself an accountability group. We got one popping and it's free
Mm-hmm.
through Telegram. So go to queencoaching.com to sign up for the free weight loss accountability group, where we are a group of women just holding each other accountable on a weekly basis to do what we said we're going to do.
Boom. If you don't mind checking that chat for me, Queen, you know I can't see, so you can check that out. And while you do that, we did do a event this weekend. Shout out to the Boys and Girls Club and the Keystone Teen Program from all around the world. We had the opportunity of tabling at their college and career fair, not yesterday, on Friday. Really good students. And the question that we asked each of them was, if you knew you could not fail, what business would you start? Right. And first of all, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a marketing and tabling genius. Okay. Well, we'll get into the whole breakdown of what we did and kind of like the strategy of how can you get attention without selling games, because we weren't allowed to sell anything.
Mhm.
But how can you still get a good ROI and engage with people by only spending $15 at Office Depot? Nah, I'm nice with it.
Yes, you are.
So we'll talk about that. Huge shout out to the Queen for holding us down during that college fair. We were there from solid 12:30 to 5:30. All
Mhm.
right, so 5 hours.
Talking
A
the
lot of
whole
talking.
time.
Yeah, lot of talking. A lot of fun though. I had a lot of fun. I like talking to people. And it was great to be at a college fair, tailoring fair with the Queen. See you in action, see me in action, see us in action. It was good vibes. So
Yes.
appreciate you.
You're
Mm.
welcome. Afterwards, he's like, "What'd you say?" I said, "Oh, you thought I said something? I will not be saying words for the rest of the evening."
Yeah, it was a lot of talking, but we got into contact with a lot of Boys and Girls Club, literally from Puerto Rico
Mhm.
to Germany to Denver to Virginia Beach to San Pedro, literally all over the world. So excited to see what we can build and grow with those folks and those advisors. Um, Anything else on that? Yeah, and we did a nice little giveaway too. So those games are already in the mail. Outside of that, we are going to Tulsa this week.
Uh,
So that's gonna be fun. Got the Queen coming as usual. We got Jair coming this time as well. Gonna do some great capturing of the experiences. We're gonna be able to go into the Greenwood Rising Cultural Center for the first time, or Greenwood Rising Historical Center for the first time. Great museum for what I've seen in pictures. And yeah, just tap in with the history again. So very excited for that. So of course, beautiful people, make sure you go to playblackwallstreet.com if you like supporting the legacy of Tulsa's Black Wall Street. If you want a family fun way for you and your scholars or your loved ones to be around a table and learn about the history of Tulsa Black Wall Street, increase financial literacy, and make sure that the people in your family know the importance of ownership.
mhm.
There's only one game out there for you, and that is Black Wall Street, the board game.
Mm.
So stop playing games with your family, stop playing games with your wealth, and go to playblackwallstreet.com. calm, and secure the bag.
Period.
All right, I'm sorry. I got into my zone.
You got the spirit
I
just
I
took
just
over for a
the
second.
spirit just came in and woo. Okay, are we good? All right. We appreciate y'all for tapping in as usual. Queen, before we end today's episode, anything on your mind before we let these amazing, beautiful people go?
I'm good. I'm
All
good to go.
good? All right. This was a good one. I appreciate the wisdom. And of course, again, this episode was sponsored by our grandmas. All right. Thank y'all for tapping into the Melanated Married Millionaires and the Making Show. My name is Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
I'm Sinclair, aka the health nerd.
We hope y'all secure yourself, secure the marriage, and of course, secure the bag. Peace. Thank you for supporting the M4 show and our mission to increase the wealth of Black families.
If you received any value from this episode, any value at all, any, do us a favor and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple, Spotify, anything, all of them, all of them, wherever you're listening. Go ahead and like and subscribe.
And after you like and subscribe, make sure you send this episode to at least one family that you really want to see win. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.